Let's look at the general method for finding the roots of a quadratic equation. We always first write the equation in standard quadratic form. In other words, in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Let's take an example. Let's say we have x into x minus 1 equals x plus 3. We first multiply the x into the brackets on the left hand side, and then we collect all the terms on the left hand side. Now we add like terms. In this example, we end up with x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0, which is now in standard quadratic form. Always eliminate fractions by multiplying through by the LCD. For example, let's say we have 2/3 x squared minus a half x minus 1 equals 0. We get rid of the fractions by multiplying through by the LCD, which is in this case 6. So we end up with 4x squared minus 3x minus 6 equals 0. Let's take another example. Let's say we have x plus 1 minus 6 over x equals 0. In this case, the LCD is x, so we multiply through by x to get x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. Also, never work with a negative x squared coefficient. We eliminate negative x squared coefficients by multiplying through by negative 1. For example, let's say we have negative 2x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. We multiply through by negative 1 to get positive 2x squared minus x plus 3 equals 0. We also always divide through by a common factor, if any. Let's say, for example, we have 4x squared plus 2x minus 12 equals 0. Here we have a common factor of 2, so we divide through by 2 to get 2x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. Once we have the equation in standard form, we factorize by using the cross method. For example, let's say we have 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. We draw a cross and we write the factors of the first term, in other words 2x squared, at the top. So we have 2x times x giving us 2x squared. We also write the factors of the third term, in this case 6, at the bottom. So we have 3 times 2 giving us 6. Now we cross multiply. 2x times 2 gives us 4x, and x times 3 gives us 3x. We want a middle term of negative 1x. So the minus goes with a bigger number, in this case 4x, and the plus goes with a smaller number, in this case 3x. So we got 4x by multiplying 2x by 2, so the minus goes with a 2. And we got 3x by saying x times 3, so the plus goes with a 3. We now group together 2x and plus 3, and x and minus 2. Our final step is to use a zero product rule. Recall that the zero product rule states, if a times b is 0, then either a is 0 or b is 0. For example, let's say we have 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. We factorize using the cross method. So we have 2x plus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0. So by the zero product rule, we know that 2x plus 3 must be 0, or x minus 2 must be 0. And now we solve for x in each equation. So we end up with x equals negative 3 over 2, or x equals 2. So this example deals with solving quadratic equations that are slightly more complex. Let's look at A. Whenever we try and solve a quadratic equation by factorization, we always first check for a common factor. In this case, the common factor is 2, so we divide through by 2. So 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. 4x divided by 2 is 2x. And 16 divided by 2 is 8. Now we can use the cross method. The factors of x squared will be x and x. So x times x is x squared. And now we can look at the factors of 8. Of course, it's 1 and 8, and 2 and 4. We need a middle term of positive 2x, so we need a 2 here. Now, the sum of 1 and 8 is 9, which isn't 2, and the difference between 1 and 8 is 7, which is also not 2. The sum of 2 and 4 is 6, which isn't 2, but the difference between 2 and 4 is 2. So we're going to use 2 and 4 as factors of 8. So 2 and 4. We cross multiply. X times 4 is 4x, and x times 2 is 2x. The middle term must be positive 2x. Now, the only way that 4 and 2 can give us positive 2 is if the 4 is positive and the 2 is negative. So positive 4x minus 2x is positive 2x. We got 4x by multiplying x by 4, and 4x is positive, so we need a plus here. We got 2x by saying x times 2, and 2x is negative, so we need a minus here. Now we can group vertically. So x minus 2 in one set of brackets, and x plus 4 in a second set of brackets. We multiply out mentally to see that we get back the original equation. X times x is x squared. Negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8. Then we have negative 2x plus 4x is positive 2x. Now we can use the zero product rule. And solving for x, we see that x is equal to 2, or x is equal to negative 4. Let's look at B. Also important that whenever we try and solve a quadratic equation, we must first make sure that it's in standard quadratic form. In other words, it must be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. This equation is not in standard form. So we're going to rewrite it. The term in x squared must always go first. So it's negative x squared. Then the term in x, and then the constant. Also important is that we never factorize a quadratic equation with a negative x squared coefficient. We have minus 1x squared here. So we want to get rid of this negative here, and we can do so by multiplying through by negative 1. Then all the signs here will change. Now the equation is in standard quadratic form,
and we can proceed with the cross method. So we draw the cross. The factors of x squared will be x and x. Now we can look at the factors of 6. Of course, it's 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. The sum of 1 and 6 is 7, which isn't 1, which is the coefficient of the middle term. And the difference between 1 and 6 is 5, which is also not 1. So we won't use 1 and 6. Then the sum of 2 and 3 is 5, which isn't 1. But the difference between 2 and 3 is 1. So we're going to use 2 and 3. Now we can cross multiply. So x times 3 is 3x. And x times 2 is 2x. Our middle term must be negative 1x or negative x. The only way that 3 and 2 will give negative 1 is if the 3 is negative and the 2 is positive. So negative 3x plus 2x is negative 1x. How did we get 3x? We said x times 3, and 3 is negative, so we need a minus here. We got 2x by saying x times 2, and 2x is positive, so we need a plus here. Now we can group vertically. So x plus 2 together and x minus 3 together. We can put x plus 2 in brackets and x minus 3 in brackets. We check x times x is x squared. Positive 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Here we have positive 2x minus 3x is negative 1x. We use the zero product rule. And in solving for x is negative 2 or x is 3. Then going on to C, now we have a fraction in this equation, and we always try and get rid of fractions. We can do so by multiplying through by the LCD, which is z in this case. So multiplying through by z, z times z is z squared. Z times 1 is z. Then on the right hand side, when we multiply 12 over z by z, the z's will cancel and we are left with 12. The equation is not yet in standard quadratic form. We can rewrite it in standard form by bringing the 12 to the left-hand side. Now the equation is in standard form, and we can use the cross method. So the factors of z squared will be z and z. We can look at the factors of 12. It's 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. We need a middle term of 1z. Now 1 and 12 won't work because 1 and 12, when we sum it, will give 13. and the difference between 1 and 12 is 11. 2 and 6 won't work because the sum of 2 and 6 is 8, which isn't 1. And the difference between 2 and 6 is 4, which is also not 1. Then the sum of 3 and 4 is 7, which isn't 1. But the difference between 3 and 4 is 1. So we know that we're going to use 3 and 4. Then cross multiplying, we get z times 4 is 4z, and z times 3 is 3z. Our middle term must be positive 1z or positive z. The only way that 4 and 3 will give us positive 1 is if the 4 is positive and the 3 is negative. Of course, we got 4z by saying z times 4, and 4z is positive, so we need a plus here. We got 3z by saying z times 3, and 3z is negative, so we need a minus here. Then grouping vertically, so z minus 3 in brackets, and z plus 4 in brackets. We check z times z is z squared, negative 3 times positive 4 is negative 12. Here we have negative 3z plus 4z is positive 1z. Then, using the zero product rule, and finally, solving for z. So z is 3, or z is negative 4. Let's look at the last equation. This equation is clearly not in standard quadratic form. We can first multiply out the brackets, so y times y is y squared, negative 1 times positive 2 is negative 2, then our middle term, negative y plus 2y is plus y. Now we can bring the 10 to the left-hand side. So negative 2 minus 10 is negative 12. Now we can use the cross method. The factors of y squared are y and y. And we can look at the factors of 12. So it's 1 and 12, 3 and 4, and 2 and 6. Of course, 1 and 12 won't work. Neither will 2 and 6. If you look at 3 and 4, we need a middle term of positive 1y. And the difference between 3 and 4 gives us 1. So we know that we won't use 1 and 12. And we won't use 2 and 6. We're going to use 3 and 4. So these go at the bottom of the cross. 3 times 4 is 12. Now we can cross multiply. So y times 4 is 4y. And y times 3 is 3y. Our middle term must be positive 1y or positive y. Then how will 4 and 3 give us positive 1? It's when the 4 is positive and the 3 is negative. So positive 4y minus 3y is positive 1y. Of course, 4y we got by saying y times 4, and 4y is positive, so we need a plus here. 3y we got by saying y times 3, and 3y is negative, so we need a minus here. Then grouping vertically, so y minus 3 in one set of brackets, and y plus 4 in another set of brackets. Then multiplying out mentally, y times y is going to be y squared. Negative 3 times positive 4 is negative 12. Then we have negative 3y plus 4y is positive 1y. Then using the zero product rule, and solving for y is 3 or y is negative 4. So let's look at your answers to this question. So A, remember that we always first have to check for a common factor. In this case, the common factor is 2, so we can divide through by 2. Now we can use the cross method. So drawing the cross, the factors of x squared will go at the top, and we can now consider the factors of 4. Of course, the factors of 4 will be 1 and 4, and 2 and 2. We need a middle term of negative 3x. So we need a 3. Now, the difference between 1 and 4 is equal to 3. So we're going to use 1 and 4 as factors of 4. So these will go at the bottom of the cross, 1 and 4. We cross multiply. X times 4 is 4x. And x times 1 is 1x. We need a middle term of negative 3x. So the 4 has to be negative and the 1 has to be positive, because negative 4x plus 1x is negative 3x. We got 4x by saying x times 4, and 4x is negative, so we need a minus here. 1x we got by saying x times 1, and 1x is positive, so we need a plus here. Now we can group vertically. So x and plus 1 together, and then x and negative 4 together. So x plus 1 will go in one set of brackets, so x plus 1, and then times x minus 4. Now we can use the zero product rule. And we simply solve for x. So x is negative 1, or x is 4. Let's look at B. Here we first have to rewrite the equation in standard quadratic form. So we're going to change the order of these terms. So negative m squared, so the term in m squared first, then negative 2m, the term in m, and then plus 15. We also never factorize with a negative in front, so we can multiply through by negative 1. Of course, all these signs will change. Now we can use the cross method. So drawing the cross, the factors of m squared will be m and m. And we can look at the factors of 15. Of course, for 15, the factors are 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. We need a middle term of positive 2m. In other words, we need a 2 here. Now, the difference between 3 and 5 is equal to 2. So we know that we're going to use 3 and 5 as factors of 15. So these go at the bottom of the cross. We cross multiply, so we get 5m and 3m. The middle term must be positive 2m. So the 5m must be positive, the bigger number, and the 3m must be negative. 5m we got by saying m times 5, so we need a plus here. And 3m we got by saying m times 3, so we need a minus here. Now we can group vertically. So m and negative 3 together, and m and plus 5 together. So then m minus 3 in one set of brackets, and m plus 5 in another set of brackets. Now, remember, very important to multiply out mentally to see that we get back the original equation. So m times m is m squared, negative 3 times positive 5 is negative 15. Then we have negative 3m plus 5m will give positive 2m. So using the zero product rule, and solving for m, so m is equal to 3, or m is equal to negative 5. Let's look at C. So in this equation, we have a fraction, and we can get rid of it by multiplying through by the LCD. So the LCD is y in this case. So y times y is y squared. 4 over y multiplied by y, the y's will cancel, and we're left with 4. Then 3 times y is 3y. The equation is not yet in standard quadratic form, so we bring all the terms to the left-hand side. Now we can use the cross method. So the factors of y squared will be y and y. And we can consider the factors of 4 now. So it's 1 and 4, and 2 and 2. Now our middle term must be negative 3y. So we need a 3 here. And the difference between 1 and 4 is 3. So we know that we're going to use 1 and 4 as factors of 4. So 1 and 4. Now we can cross multiply. Our middle term must be negative 3y. So we need a negative here in front of the 4y and a positive here. Now, y times 4 gave us 4y, and 4y is negative. And y times 1 gave us 1y, and 1y is positive. Then, grouping vertically, now we can use brackets. So y plus 1 in one set of brackets and y minus 4 in the second set of brackets. We multiply out mentally. Y times y is y squared. Positive 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. Then we have positive y minus 4y is negative 3y. So it does work, these factors. Then using the zero product rule, and finally solving for y, we see that y is negative 1 or y is 4. So going on to D, we're first going to multiply out the brackets. So t times t is t squared, minus 3 times plus 1 is minus 3. Then negative 3t plus t is negative 2t. Now we can bring the 12 to the left-hand side. And we get negative 15 on the left-hand side. Now the equation is in standard quadratic form, and we can use the cross method. The factors of t squared will be t and t, and we can look at the factors of 15. It's going to be 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. We need a middle term of negative 2t, so we need a 2 here, and the difference between 3 and 5 gives us 2. So we're going to use 3 and 5 as factors of 15. Then cross multiplying. Our middle term must be negative 2t. So we need a minus in front of 5t and a plus in front of 3t in order to get negative 2t. That means we need a negative here and a positive here. We can now group vertically. So t plus 3 in one set of brackets. And t minus 5 in the second set of brackets. We check mentally. T times t is t squared. Positive 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Then positive 3t minus 5t is negative 2t. Then using the zero product rule, We solve for t. So t is negative 3 or t is 5. Let's go on to e. We have fractions in this equation, so we're going to multiply through by the LCD to get rid of them. So here, 2 times a half is 1, so the 2's cancel here. 5 times 2 is 10. And on the right-hand side, 7 over 2x times 2, the 2's cancel as well, and we're left with 7x. Now we can bring everything to the left-hand side. And we can use the cross method now. The factors of x squared will be x and x. Now, the factors of 10 will be 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. We need to get a middle term of negative 7x. And in other words, we need a 7 here, and 2 and 5 does give us 7. So we're going to use 2 and 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Then cross multiplying. We need negative 7x as our middle term. The only way that 5 and 2 can give us negative 7 is if both of them are negative. Then, since 5x is negative, and we got it from x times 5, we need a minus here. 2x we got from x times 2, and 2x is negative, so we need another minus here. Now we can group vertically. So then x minus 2 times x minus 5 is 0. Then just checking mentally, x times x is x squared, negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10, then we have negative 2x minus 5x is negative 7x. So these factors are correct. Then using the zero product rule, and solving for x, so x is 2 or x is 5. Let's look at f. We can multiply out the brackets on both sides of the equation. So on the left-hand side, we can multiply the 3 into the brackets. And in multiplying out the right-hand side, x times x is x squared. Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3. Then the middle term, negative 3x plus 1x is negative 2x. Now we can bring all the terms to the one side. I'm going to bring the left-hand side here to the right-hand side terms. So we have x squared, then negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x, and negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. Now the equation is in standard quadratic form, and we can use the cross method. So the factors of x squared will be x and x. And we can look at the factors of 6. So it's 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. Now, we need a middle term of negative 5x. So we need a 5 here. The difference between 1 and 6 is equal to 5. And the sum of 2 and 3 is also 5. So we need to check which set of factors will work. Let's start by trying 1 and 6. We can cross multiply. X times 6 is 6x. X times 1 is 1x. The middle term must be negative 5x. And we can get negative 5 when 6 is negative and 1 is positive. So negative 6x plus 1x is negative 5x. 6x is negative, so we need a minus here with a 6. And 1x is positive, so we need a plus here. Now we can group vertically. So x plus 1 in one set of brackets, and x minus 6 in the second set of brackets. We multiply out mentally. X times x is x squared. Positive 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. Then we have positive x minus 6x is negative 5x. So 1 and 6 does work. Now we use the zero product rule. And solving for x is negative 1 or x is 6. Then going on to g, once again we can multiply out on both sides. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. On the right hand side, we have 12x minus 40. We bring all our terms to the left hand side and add like terms. So negative x minus 12x is negative 13x. And we'll get plus 40 on the left hand side. Now the equation is in standard quadratic form. So we can use the cross method. The factors of x squared will be x and x. And now we can look at the factors of 40. So it's 1 and 40. 2 and 20, 4 and 10, and 5 and 8. We need a middle term of negative 13x. So we need a 13 here. And we can run through all these sets of factors. And we find that 5 plus 8 will give us 13. So let's use 5 and 8. We cross multiply. X times 8 is 8x. X times 5 is 5x. Our middle term must be negative 13x. And we can get negative 13 if both 8 and 5 are negative. So we need negatives here. Then grouping vertically, so x and negative 5 in one set of brackets, and x minus 8 in the second set of brackets. Let's check mentally that we get back the original equation. X times x is x squared. Negative 5 times negative 8 is positive 40. Then our middle term will be negative 5x minus 8x, which is negative 13x. Using the zero product rule, and solving for x is 5 or x is 8. Let's solve the last equation. The equation is already in standard quadratic form, so we can go straight to the cross method. So the factors of x squared will be x and x. Now we can look at the factors of 5a squared. In other words, the factors of the constant. The only factors of 5a squared will be 1a, or just a, and 5a. So let's try 1a and 5a. So a and 5a, we cross multiply. X times 5a is 5ax, and x times a is ax, or 1ax. Our middle term must be negative 4ax. The way to get negative 4ax is to make the 5ax negative and the ax positive. So negative 5ax plus ax is negative 4ax. 5ax is negative, so we need a minus here, and ax is positive, so we need a plus here. Then grouping vertically, so we have x plus a times x minus 5a. Let's check mentally. X times x is x squared. A times negative 5a is negative 5a squared. Then we have positive ax minus 5ax. And that gives us negative 4ax. Then using the zero product rule, and solving for x is equal to negative a, or x is equal to 5a.